Hello and welcome to the very first Dinosaw for 2021. Another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. First one is a new record for fusion reactions. So this is a fusion reactor in Korea that has lasted for 20 seconds. Well, it's not lasted, it's still there, but it actually had fusion going on for 20 seconds. So what that basically means is you've got super hot, like 10 million degrees C plasma whizzing around inside this thing. Now, why is this important? So currently you have nuclear fission reactors. So those are the bad ones. So those create nuclear waste. So you take two very dense materials and you split them apart. And when you split them apart, energy comes out, but you end up with waste material. And this is the opposite. This is what the sun does. So it takes two very light elements, like hydrogen, and tries to fuse them together, fusion, and therefore, having done that, it fuses them together, energy comes out, and it creates helium, which is the next one down. So this essentially takes abundant hydrogen. We've got lots and lots of that. It's basically in water, and it creates helium, an inert gas. So there you go. So if we can figure this out, this is almost limitless energy, just like what the sun does. Now, the reason this is important is it's lasted twice as long as the previous record. So if we carry on doing that, then this is the future of energy over and above things like solar, wind, all those sorts of things as well. So this is good news. Drones are taking a bit of a battering with rules at the moment. So the UK and the US have just passed some fairly hefty rule changes on drones, and quite frankly, good. So the UK has put drones into 3 categories. Broadly speaking, kind of toys and stuff, and then they go all the way up to commercial drones. What really stood out is if you have a camera on your drone, you need to go and register it, because that is a universal. So it's all about privacy. Even if you've got a little toy drone, then it is possible to invade somebody's privacy with it, so you have to go and say that you've got one. So that's the CAA doing that, and in America they've also passed some laws that will come into effect, or pretty chunky ones, next year in 2023, and those are about identifying drones and their pilots whilst they're in the air. So there are lots of other things about these laws as well, but really what this means is each one has to have an identity beacon, which is unique to each one of the drones. So not only do you have to register your drone in the US, but it has to be broadcasting a special ID as well, and also you have to register be broadcasting an ID as well. So they need to know where your drone is and where you are. So if that covers you at the moment, you might want to go and research that. Flash is finally dead, poor old Flash. So if you don't really know why this is important, this Flash kind of came onto the scene 1990s, 2000, something like that, and it really revolutionized the internet. It made it much more fun, entertaining. It created sort of films and media on the internet, whereas before it was actually just pretty dull. So with time, it's had lots of competitors, and also became a vector for quite a lot of attacks and viruses and things like that, and it just wasn't really worth keeping up to date when you had things like HTML5. So probably the biggest nail in its coffin was really Apple not supporting it on the iPhone for various reasons, political and financial. So that's that. So as of basically January the 1st, Flash is now not supported. So what does this really mean? If you have it and don't even know what it is, then just uninstall it. It will make you safer, essentially. You won't be a vector for an attack, should we call it. If you see a Flash update in the near future, ignore them, because they are not real. They are just people trying to scam you. Do not install them. And if you have Flash and want to see Flash on the internet still, then just basically keep it, and you'll be able to drag and drop files onto your browser as long as you've still got the plugin. How long that will allow you to do that, I'm not really sure, but it still worked for me just now. So thank you, Flash. Rest in peace. But basically, time to move on. Boston Dynamics released their latest tech demo, should we call it, and this is their dancing robots to Do You Love Me by the Contours. So it really just showed how brilliant their humanoid androids are, or robots are, and it also showed their Spot the Dog and also some of their balancing robots as well, all got a little bit of a feature. So most of the people who saw this just thought it was amazing, just how well balanced these things are, how fast they can do maneuvers and what they can do. They can balance on one leg and all sorts of things. So that's kind of cool. There was another side of this, which was basically a discourse about the rights of humanoid androids, I guess, in the future. So all predicated around the fact that if you want to get a job done, you don't really need to make a human-shaped robot to do it, as we see from things like canning factories and those sorts of things. So why are we going for a humanoid robot, and why do Boston Dynamics go down this route? So there was a lot of people talking about, well, usually what would happen is we would use them as our slaves because they would do menial jobs for us, and therefore what rights do they have, and what is consciousness? And really these are probably going to end up being fighting robots as well. So isn't it cute that we're all laughing at this right now, but really what we're seeing is a future of a robot that'll be running after you one day, and will probably be taking you down. So so there was a dark side to this. So every time you see one of these videos, you might want to be thinking, this is cute and everything, but where are these going? So if you want to find those articles, they're not far away. This is kind of weird and interesting. This is somebody who's put an entire movie on a floppy disk. Now why? Well, just for a bit of fun, but also to show there is more to be had from video codecs. So this is Shrek, and it fits on a 1.4 megabytes floppy. So that's, again, a bit of old school technology, but you can't even get a desktop icon in 1.4 megabytes these days. So this managed to get a DVD squashed down to 0.03% of its space. Okay, it's got no audio on it, and it's about, what, 2 frames a second, 2 or 3 frames a second, but it is actually pretty watchable. What you're seeing is actually an effect on the screen to make it look like a VHS, but it's a pretty noble goal, really. So just thought it was really interesting. People are still trying to get the most out of these algorithms, and of course, as data is all around us, we've got 5G, we're trying to squeeze more and more down the data we've got. So kind of neat. Brexit happened, so Britain is now out of the EU. We are not outside of Europe. That is a common mistake. So we're outside the EU, and the document may have been a bit last minute, because there's quite a few sort of clangers in there, shall we say, and if you were of a tech persuasion you would have noticed them stand out like a sore thumb. So for instance, this page all about encryption, about sharing data in a secure way, DNA profiles, etc., mentioned a few sort of really dodgy things. So RSA 1024-bit encryption, which can pretty much just be brute force these days. You've got the hash SHA algorithm as well, which probably 3 or 4 years ago has been proved to be almost just pointless because it's been cracked essentially. And also I think the biggest clanger, which was the most embarrassing, was when it was talking about modern email software packages, including Netscape Communicator 4. Now Netscape Communicator 4 came out in I think 2002, or at least was probably killed in 2002, and the last Netscape browser I think died in 2008, which gives you a clue that actually a lot of this was lifted from an EU document from 2008. So there's probably a lot of copy and pasting going on in this document, so it may not be as up to date as we think it is. So very embarrassing, but there's probably more to come once people have gone through this with a fine-tooth comb. And finally, this is a bit of fun to start 2021, bit of a head scratcher as well. So this is Jacob Collier, who's a musician from the UK. And just this, I've seen this being done before, but I just thought this has created a great piece of music whilst also spelling out words. So just to explain what's going on here, when you play a lot of keys at the same time, it basically registers all those keys on a graphic display. And if you play one key a lot, so if you just keep repeating that key, it will create a single bar as you basically create a lot of dots. So what he's doing here is he's not only spelling it real time, but he's also creating a great piece of music as well. So I'll let you Google Jacob Collier and Happy 2021, and if you go onto YouTube, you'll probably find a lot of people who've been inspired by this, who've not only done kind of collaborations with this piece of music as well, but also have started writing their own things as well. So it's really amazing to see people like this that exist in the world, and thank God for them as well. So just brilliant piece of madness to start 2021. So with that, we are done. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week.